So this is my video just for myself on how to do the 3x3 blind. I did a flow chart that shows all of the various steps. And I have some special cases that I'll talk about in a minute with the algorithms here, the parity algorithm, and no setup moves, but I'll demonstrate a few, and then all of this will also be in the description. So basically the goal is this, is on this cube, which right now obviously is solved, you have white at the top, green at the front. You use the SPEF numbering sequence, which is explained in my 2x2. So as far as edges, this is basically A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X. And then same thing for the corners, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, etc. So with corners, I use the old Pachman method, and I'll also have that sequence of moves in the description. But basically that moves whatever this piece, and specifically this color, is down to this position. So right now this color is the orange of the white and blue, and I'll do the moves and it'll move it down here. So the moves are say them while I'm doing them. Now, doing corners also affects these two edges, but for right now we don't care. So that did in fact move that orange piece right down there. And so that's the same as on a 2x2 when you're just dealing with corners. So if I wanted to solve this now, actually I would look at what's in this position, and it's the green, red, yellow piece, which we know goes green, red, yellow. And it's the yellow that's on this side, so on the buffer position, or whatever. Yeah, buffer. I think this is called buffer, and this is called target. So we want yellow down here. This is UV. We don't have to do any rotations or anything. We just do the moves. And it moves it back to there. So that's old Pachman, and that's with corners. Now with edges, we do the M2 moves, which basically we're going to be rotating this center slice. And going that way is an M prime. Going back that way is an M. And there are special cases for all of the pieces on the center, because if you were to move any of these, you're going to mess up something else in the centerpiece. So I'll show you that in a minute. So for example, what shall I do? Let me pause for a moment. Okay, so I've moved a few edges. Corners are still intact, but we have a couple of edges, 3 edges that are not right. So in the M2 method, the buffer piece is this one, and specifically this underside, and it will go to this position, the target position. So our goal is to move things to the target position so that then we can move them around. So let's start with, I tried to do a couple of fairly easy cases. So we have to start down here, and this is the yellow of yellow and orange. So that goes there. So we know that's UVWX. So we've got X, and then that is green and red. So that goes here. So that's J. So XJ, and then we end at this buffer piece that's normally down here, the green and yellow, so we can stop. So we have memorized XJ. So we do X. Now X is this one. So with these on this outside edge here, this one this one, and this one. What we'll do basically is we'll move the top slice. This is the interesting piece there. We'll move that over, and then we'll move the one we're talking about up to get it. So we're starting with X. So X is down here. So we want to set up a top slice. We'll move X up to that interesting middle position. This is the setup, and then we'll move it over. Now we can do our M2. Let's move it back. Let's rotate it back around to where it was, and then reset the top slice. So what that has done is that has put it in its correct position. Now you notice it's also messed up the center slice, because this should be white and this should be green. That's why we have to do our memorizations in pairs. So don't panic, leave it as it is. And remember, the next one we were going to do, I think, was J. So it's the red and green. That means it goes over here, and the green is on the bottom, so that goes here. So that was J. So the move for J is similar to over here. We want this basically to go into our target position. So we'll rotate this interesting slot over, go up and grab it, move it over, do our M2, we'll move it back, we'll move it down, and then we'll reorient our slice. So that's how we do these that are on this face like this. Now, if it's this one up here or this one up here, we can't just move that over, because that would have affected the whole center slice. We don't want to do that. So what we need to do is we need to move it out of the way, then rotate over to get it, move it back up, go over, do the move, rotate it back, out of the way again, set the U slice back to where it was, and then we can be back. So what that should have done is moved the A, B, C, D, the D slice, the D piece, and sure enough it has. So of course we're at the second half of the pair, which I'll explain in a minute, but this is white and orange. So the white and orange goes here, and the white, which is on the bottom, needs to go up there. So it is in fact D. And so we know for D, it's on this outer one, but it's on the top. So we have to move it out of the way for a minute, go over to get it, move it back, grab it over, we've gotten it. Now we can flip it, move it back, back out of the way, reset, and there. And that works similarly for this one over here. So that's one case. Now another case is if they're on the edges here. Now this was on this sort of outer face. This is more on the, it's hard to explain. So if we had one here, for example, we can't just move it up into that position because it's moved too much that it shouldn't move. So what we want to do, before I do that one, let me start with an easier one. So on this face, they're all going to be similar, but some are going to have to move out of the way first. So let's pretend we're doing this one, which is M. So we want it to basically get to here to do our flip. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring this interesting target piece down. We're going to move that to where that is now and move it up. And now we can do our U2, our M2. Now let's put it back. Let's move it back to where it was, and let's reset. So what that has done is that has moved, was it that piece down to there? Yes. So if we wanted to reset that, this is the red and white, which is that one. It's the red, so that's M. And so we know it's that side piece. And of course we would stop our memo because that's the green and yellow. So we would do our moves to get M. And so we come down and get it. We rotate that down to there and up. Now we can do our switch, rotate it back. Let's get it back up to where it was and reset. So that's basically how all of these work. So like if it were, so that one we just moved it down. We went to get it first and then moved it down. If we wanted to do say this one, we would just move this down, move this all the way over, move it back up, flip it, then move it back down, move it back to where it was, and reset. And so now we have the red and green, which is that one. So if we wanted to do that, we know that's MNOP. And so what we would do is we would come down, we'd go over to get it, move it up, flip it around, move it down, move it back over, and then reset. And that is how all those on the face there work, and the same thing with the face here. Now there's also some people that do a double move to get it out of the way, but that's just too confusing for me. So if it is this back one though, you can't, it's already there. So if you were to move this down, it's moved it out of the way, so you can't do the same sort of thing. So what you just basically would have to do is move it out of the way, then come down, move it back up to get it, and then up to the exchange position, flip it around, move it back down, move it back out of the way, move that back up, and then move it up to where it was. And so that's, we've now moved the red and blue, which is red and blue right there, so MN. So to put it back, what we would do is move this out of the way, come down to get it, move it back up where it can grab it, move it up to the flip position, flip it, move it down, move it out of the way, reset that, and then move it back up. So that's how you do the ones that are on the side. So I think that pretty much covers all of those. Now, any of these that are on this center M slice are tricky, so I'll do those next. Okay, so this is now where we deal with this center slice, and it's kind of interesting because there are special cases for everything. The easiest two are the A and the Q, which is this piece. A's up here, Q's this side here, and A is just an M2, Q is a U prime, M prime, U prime, M prime, U prime, M prime. You do that 3 times, and then a U prime, M, and then U prime, M prime, U prime, M prime, U prime, M prime, U prime, M prime. We do that 4 times. And so that has basically flipped this. So if I wanted to get this back, I really want A to go to Q. So A is just 2. Q is and then we're back to that. Ow. So, man, my knee. All right. So C and W and I and S are a little bit different. So this is C, this top piece, and W is this piece. So they're opposites, which if you look at the algorithms and you read the C going forward is the same as the W coming the opposite back. So those are pretty easy to memorize. The reason I have a bracket here is these are what's called opposites. So if you have either of these in any pair as the second position, you actually have to do the opposite. So just for argument's sake, let's show you one we did before. So we did J, and we know to do J, we go, what do we do? We bring this over, we move it up, over, we swap it, move it back to J, and reset. And then let's do a C. So C would be U2 M prime, U2 M prime. So we have that piece out and that piece out. So if we were memorizing this, now that's just what I've done to set it up, but if we had just this, there's only 3 pieces that are off. So what we would do is we would look at this position, of course, and we know that's the blue and yellow, so that goes there. The yellow side is what the operative one is. That's UVW. So we have a W, And then that's the green of green and red. So this is not illustrating my case, but I will show you anyway. All right, so this is W goes to, and then green goes to J. So WJ. So we won't have to reverse anything. So W would be M prime, no, M U2, M U2, and then we know J is we move this over, move this up, move it over, swap, move it back, and reset. So I think what I want to do is do that opposite so I can set this up. We'll try this again. So let's suppose we do C first. So U2 M prime, U2 M prime. And now let's do a J. So we move it over, up, over, swap, over, back home, over. So now we've flipped, I think, the right two. So for my illustration here, if we had just these two and this one that are off, what we want to do is look at this piece. That's the green of the green and red. So that goes to here. So that's J. So we're memorizing our sequence. That is the green and white. So that goes here and the white goes on top. So that is J, C. So C is the second in that pair. So we know when we get to doing the algorithms, we're really going to have to do the opposite of C. So we're going to have to do W. So let's do the normal thing for J. So we move it over, come up and get it, swap it, move it over, come back down, reset. And now we want to do, what did I say? The opposite of C, I think. Oh, I wish I could remember what I said. If we can look at this, I'm not sure. So that's really a C right there. Can we do a C? It's just, okay, I think, shoot, I think I need to pay attention to what I'm saying. So this is a C, but since we know we're in the second half of the pair, I think even just looking at that, I know I have to do the W. So the W is M, U2, M, U2. Okay, that was right. Wow, confused myself for nothing. So that's the C and the W. The I and the S work similarly. They're much harder for me to remember. But if you have either of those in the second half of a pair, then you have to do the opposite. So, okay, I have set up a few things on this one to make it relatively quick and easy. I hope. We'll see how it goes. So the whole goal overall in doing the 3x3, the way I do it with the old Pachman for corners and M2, or yeah, M2 for edges, is you have to memorize the edges first, and then you have to memorize the corners, and then execute in that order. So for edges, let's see what we have. And of course you would memorize this, you wouldn't write it down, but for right now this is what we're going to do. So for edges, we orient the cube the way we want it. And so for edges, we're going to look at this one, of course, in the buffer position, or the, whatever this position is. This is the white of the white and green, so that's that one. Okay, so that's white of the white and green, so that's that. So that's C. And then C goes to, that's green of green and red, so that goes to here, which is J. And then that's the green of green and orange, so that goes to here, which is IJKL. And the L is is red and blue, so that's this piece, and it's the blue, so that's QRST. So that's T. And then T is the yellow of yellow and orange, which is that one. So that's UVWX. The X is white of white and orange, so that goes up to here. So that's D. And that's the red of red and yellow, so that's this one. That's O. It's the red of red and white, so that's this one, which is M. And we're up to the green and yellow, which is the buffer position, so we can stop this cycle. Now, there might have been some we missed, which is part of the trick of keeping track if you've gotten all of the edges. But let's start with this for now. Corners, this setup did not work the way I wanted, of course. I must have done something wrong. So for corners, we have the white of the green and orange and white, so that goes to here, which is D. D is orange, white, and yellow, so that's a buffer piece, so we can stop that memorization. But we probably are going to need some other corners. So let's look at this one. This is not in the right place, so that's B. Much like on the 2x2, if you finish a chain because you're at the buffer piece, you just start another chain, and all you have to do is start and end on the same piece, not the same side necessarily, but the same piece. So we'll start with B because that's an easy one to do. So B is the yellow of yellow, green, and red. So that goes to here, which is V. V is white of red, blue, and white, which goes to here. So that's B, so that's good. We've started and ended on that one. Let's just try this for now. I don't think this is going to solve it all, but we'll see. So what we would do is we would, of course, committed this to memory. We have an even number of pairs and number and letters, so we don't have to do a parity move. So what we would do is we would start to execute our edges with first C and J. So we know C is ABC right there. I mean, yeah, that's where it's going to go. And we know the special move for C is U2, M prime, U2, M prime. That's C. We have J. Come over, get it over, swap it, move it back, move it down to its position, and reset. Then we have L and T. I, J, K, L. That's an easy one. Come over and grab it, swap, move it back and over. And T, Q, R, S, T. It's not a hard one either. We just come over to get it, move it back over. So X and D, X is here, move it over to get it, move it into the swap position, move it back over, reset. D is that one again, that's not too hard, move it out of the way, come over to get it, move it up to the swap position, move it over out of the way, and reset, and then back up. And then O, this one, it's one of these that's on the side, so we come down to get it, rotate it up, move it into the swap position, move it back down, back to where it belongs, and reset. And then M, this one, which is the buffer piece, so we don't need to be remembering that, so that's really quite interesting. So I don't know what went wrong here, but since I'm looking at this and we are in the second half of a pair, let's see what this would be. This would be, well, that does go to M. I guess you just have to stop there when you're memorizing, but not when you're doing it. Of course, you're blindfolded, so you can't see. So let's go ahead and do the M, which is what I had written down anyway. So M is there, so we need to go down to get it, bring it up, swap it, move it back down, back into place, and reset. Okay, and that does look like that has solved all of the edges. So yay. So now the corners, we had memorized DB, VB. So let's try D, which is really easy to just move that over to the buffer position. Do the algorithm and then move it back. B is an easy one. It's that one. You just move it down to the buffer position. Do the algorithm, move it back. And then V is an easy one because it's already there. And then B. That one again, move it down. Do the algorithm and move it back. Okay, and there were 2 that we missed somehow, 3 that we missed. So I'm glad I'm not making this for anyone other than myself. So if we were doing the corners now and just starting basically with this in corners, the buffer piece is already there, so it doesn't matter where we start. So let's start with this one. So that is a J, and that's going to go to green of orange, yellow, green. So J goes to, let me write this down. So J goes to the green of orange, yellow. So that goes to there. So J goes to L. And L goes to blue, red, yellow. The blue is that one. So Q, R, S, T. And then that green of green, red, and white goes to here. Green goes to back to J. And so we started there and we ending there. So we should be able to do these to get the cube righted. So let's try it. So we know J is this one. And the reason I chose this side, because I can start anywhere when I finish the cycle, instead of doing this one, because this setup's going to be really easy just to get this down to there. Just one move. If I'd chosen this top part, D or C, it's trickier to get down to the bottom. You have to move it down to there and then rotate it around. So that's just too many extra moves. So when you're choosing where to start in a new cycle, it's easier just to make it easy on yourself. So we're going to do a J, which that's just the setup, and then the algorithm. And then return it. And then we had L. So I, J, K, L. Corners, I, J, K, L. So this one, we can rotate this way. And now it puts it in the position where if I just move it down like that, it's in the right place. So we do our algorithm. And then move it back up and rotate it back around. And then we'll do T, which is this one, which is nice if we move that to there. It's already in the right place. Okay, and then move it back. And then J. This is J again, move it down. To our algorithm. Move back up. And so we've solved that painstakingly. And so that's how you do edges and corners. Okay, this is going to explain parity. And that happens when there is not a full pair of edges when you've done your memo, and so you need to do a parity move before you can do corners. So in this setup, we have a few edges that are off, and we've got a couple of corners that are off. So what we would do is we would memo the edges, of course, first. So we start here. That is J. It's green and red. That goes to here. This is orange and white with the white on top. So the next one is D. This is the blue and white. So that goes to here. So that's A. And then that's the buffer piece. So we're done with the memo. So I've written this down so you can see it better. So for edges, we only have JD as the first pair and then A. So we don't have a full pair on the second group. So we need to do parity in between there, because if we didn't, as you know with M2, every first move in the first half of the pair makes the yellow center on top and the blue center here, and of course we want white and green, so we have to do something to write that, and we can't write it with another edge, so we have to do this special parity move, and then we move on to corners. And so for corners, I've given you a glimpse already, but really we only have one move. We have this one, which is the green, red, yellow, but specifically the yellow, that goes into this position, which is V, and that doesn't even require setup moves, so that's nice. And then this is the buffer piece, so we can stop our memo there. So for corners, we only have one to remember, and parity doesn't matter, and pairs don't matter with corners, except it makes it easier to remember how to do your full memo when you're doing a full one. So we would start with edges, do J, D, and A. So we will do J, which is this one. Remember, we bring this interesting target piece over, move J up, move it back to where it was, flip it, move it over, move J back, and return it. Then we had D. This was D. We need to move it out of the way, move that over to get it, move it up, flip it, move it back, move it over, reset the U, and move it back up. And then we had A, and A is just that. So this illustrates, you're going to be blindfolded, so you wouldn't know this, but this illustrates that this is not how we can't leave the edges like this, because if we went into corners right now, things would be off, because this is yellow and blue. We need this to be white and green. So we do the parity move, which is D prime L2D, M2, D prime L2D. So the parity move is D prime L2D, and then an M2, and then repeat that, D prime L2D. And so now we are ready to do the corners. It looks like these two edges are off, but these two edges get swapped when you're doing Old Pachman on corners. So we would look at our memo. We wouldn't look, we would remember our memo. Corners, all we had was V. That's already in the interesting position, so we don't need to do any setup moves. So we just go ahead and do our algorithm. And voila, we have solved the cube illustrating parity.